ॐ विश्वं दर्पणदृश्यमाननगरी तुल्यन्निजान्तर्गतं पश्यन्नात्मनि मायया बहिर्वोद्भूतं यथा निद्रया यः साक्षात् कुरुते प्रबोधसमये स्वात्मानमेवाद्वयं तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये बीजस्यान्तरिवाङ्कुरो जगदिदं प्राङ्निर्विकल्पं पुनः मायाकल्पितदेशकालकलना वैचित्रचित्रीकृतं मायावीव विजृम्भयत्यभिमः योगी वयस्वेच्छया तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्तिः 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 सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् ॐ पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम् यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै नमः। Verse 29. आश्चर्यवत् पश्यति कश्चिदेनम् आश्चर्यवद्वदति तथैव चान्यः आश्चर्यवच्चैनमन्यः शृणोति श्रुत्वाप्येनं वेद न चैव कश्चित्। This is a verse, very popular verse, and some of the verses which are bodily lifted by Bhagavan from Kathopanishad. This is one of this verse which has been, of course, with a little bit difference. In Kathopanishad it is, Yamaraja talks to Nachiketa, Shravanayapi bahubiryo na labhyah, Shunvantopi bahavo yam na vidyuhu, Ascharyo vakta kushalasya labdha, Ascharyo gnata kushalanushishtah. Lot of people, those who discuss among themselves regarding the self, first Atma is not available for discussion. And suppose someone listens to the Atma, they, even after listening to Atma, they are not able to know the Atma. And the speaker of this self, regarding the subject matter is self, but the speaker of such a subject matter, it is not available. That is also a ashcharya, that is also a surprise, that is also a wonder, that is also a rare thing. It's a wonder means it is very rare thing. And the person after listening, suppose a speaker is there and he talks about it, and very well he clearly, he gives a clarity regarding this subject matter, Atma, very clearly, establishing the subject matter of Atma as which is Satchidananda, etc. Still the person who listens to that doesn't know. So this is how, every way it is a wonder. So this verse, of course, the translation is, one looks upon the self as a wonder. Ascharyavat pashyati kaschit enam. Enam atmanam kaschit ascharyavat pashyati. This is how the Anvaya is. So one looks upon the self as a wonder. Similarly, kaschit ascharyam ascharyavat vadati tathaivacha anyah. Tatha eva. Similarly, anyah ascharyavat vadati. Well, similarly, another speaks of it as a wonder. Ascharyavatcha enam anyah shrunoti. Well, another person who listens to that is also a wonder. The Shrota also, the hearer of this also is not available. And still another shrunoti. Then he says, Shrutvapi enam atmanam vedana chaiva kashita veda na vijanati. So even after hearing about this self, does not understand it at all. This is how it has been told here. Bhashyakara begins this verse by saying that Atma, which is under discussion, Prakruta Atma. Prakruta means which is under the discussion, is not easy to understand. And so Durvigneya. Durvigneya means it is very difficult to understand. Prakruta is a very technical term which has been used by Bhashyakara, but the meaning is the topic under discussion. And what is the topic under discussion right now? Definitely Atma is under the discussion. So Bhashyakara says Prakruta Atma. So although one has to recognize Atma as a Brahman, but it is not that easy. Even though we say it is an immediate self and it is myself and etc., but it is not easy, and therefore not everyone comprehends it. This is how it has been told. Just a minute. And so the cause for this bhranti or the confusion, self-confusion, which we are talking about also in Tattvabodha, etc., and between Atma, Anatma, etc., well, it is universal, and therefore, this confusion between Atma, Anatma, which is non-separate from the Atma, has been taken as Atma. Anatma, which is non-separate from the Atma, because of the self-ignorance and self-consciousness. So, being self-conscious, you will be conscious of the self, but wrong self. Why wrong self? Because there is confusion, there is self-ignorance. So since you don't know yourself in a true sense, then, and being self-conscious, something else you will pick up as a self. And what you pick up as a self should be very near. Yeah, it is very near. How near it is? It is non-separate. The whole Anatma, which is non-separate from the self, Anatma, has been picked up as a self. By whom? By everybody. So it's universal. And therefore, basically, and because of that, there is a lamenting, etc. There is a lot of sorrow in our life. And we have seen also the sorrow stands for everything. All negative emotions, all the human problems, so-called emotional problems, entire emotional problems basically is represented by one word called shoka, sorrow. And therefore, this is how, it is a universal, and therefore Arjuna, don't lament for your lamenting. Well, basically, because everyone is in same boat. Like, this is a human psychology. We have certain problems. In my house, suppose the power goes. In India especially we do, I don't know here, but in India we always check with the neighbor. And if the neighbor says, we also don't have a power in our house, then we feel little relaxed. So this is because they also don't have a power. And if you come to know that the entire area has no electricity, well, you will be relaxed. Therefore, this is a universal problem. So everyone is having this sorrow. Whoever is born, and definitely in terms of material wealth, etc., material pursuits, people have plenty, but basically this lamenting will not go because of just self-confusion. Anatma is taken as Atma, that itself, because Anatma is such which creates a sorrow for you. And therefore, Anatma remains Anatma, there is no sorrow, by the way. Anatma is Anatma, there is no sorrow. Anatma is taken as a Atma, there is a big sorrow. There you see many things in the world. You don't have a sorrow for that. But something has been taken as a self. Therefore, this body, etc., body, mind, senses, etc., well, they are very limited, and that you cannot stand. As a self, you cannot stand. No way you can stand. That is how we always have a compassion for the people who are trying to boast themselves, and who are, doing some kind of a material progress, etc. And we, sometimes the people who are, spiritually inclined, they criticize such people. We should not criticize, because ultimately one is in search of a limitless. One cannot, one cannot at a rest, unless one discovers this limitlessness. And one cannot discover so far as one tries to gain that limitlessness in terms of these material pursuits. That's not possible at all. You may have a sense of a completeness. That's what the moment of joy is. That's what we have seen. What is that moment of joy? We have seen this in Tattva Bodha, etc. Well, what I am saying is, and that makes the person going. Even if that moment of joy is not there, which makes you see what you are basically. That's your height. And therefore you cannot settle for anything less than that. And that is how people try to search this joy. Well, in various pursuits, in material pursuits. And therefore nobody is wrong. This is a universal confusion. And the sense of limitations is there, sense of discomfort, sense of uneasiness is there with regard to oneself. And therefore it will not allow the person to sit. Well, and therefore this is basically, Bhagavan says to Arjuna, well, you are definitely grieving for something, but basically this confusion is universal. And therefore Bhagavan is showing the problem is universal. Through Arjuna he is addressing to everyone also. So this is how it is. Now we'll have to go into the verse. Ashcharyavat pashyati kaschit enam. This much part we will see first. So Ashcharyavat is to be connected with three things in this sentence. With what are the three things? Because Bhagavan says Ashcharyavat pashyati. Kaschit. Kaschit means someone. Someone looks upon this Atma as a wonder. Someone knows this Atma as a wonder. That much we can say. Pashyati, we will take it here in terms of knowing. We know very well what one sees is definitely is non-self. And therefore it is not really in terms of seeing. But seeing is always used in the sense of knowing in Shastra. Atmavare drishtabhyah. One should, Maitreyi Yajnavalkya says in Brihadaranyaka, Atma should be clearly seen. Then how to see? Because it is the nature of the seer, it is not an object of seeing. Well, everything which is an object of consciousness, that is non-I. I is consciousness, and other than I, what you see as an object, the object of consciousness which is evident to you, well, that is non-I. What is self-evident is I. Anyway, so this is how it is. Ashcharyavat should be connected with three things. So because someone knows the self as a wonder. Now knows implies three things. First is a knower, right? First is a knower. Second one is an object of knowing. That is Atma here, basically. Object of knowing. And the third thing is the knowing as such. The knowledge. So the Atma Jnanam is wonder. The knower of Atma is wonder. And the Atma itself, the object of knowledge, that Atma itself is wonder. Right? So these three things are there. What is the object of knowledge here? Atma. Who is a knower? I am a knower. Right? And how do you know? Through the Jnanam. So knowledge as such. The self-knowledge is a wonder. The knower of also is a wonder. Who is pursuing self-knowledge? He is also a wonder. And the object of knowledge called Atma itself is also a wonder. This is how we have to see. So Ascharyavat should go with all the three. Ascharyavat drashta, we can see, we can tell that way, or Ascharyavat darshanam, Ascharyavat drishyam, or darshaniyam. Anyway, so let us take the first thing. The knower of Atma is rare, is a wonder, is a surprise. If you come across, you really find him a very rare species. Why? Because the knower, on the part of knower of the self, there are so many requirements, and to fulfill all the requirements is just impossible. I will tell you before I go ahead, whatever description has been given as a sadhana chatushtaya sampatti in tattva bodha, that sadhana chatushtaya sampatti in a complete measure is an ideal thing. No one is there. The ideal is presented with 100% viveka and 100% vairagya, and then shama, dama, titiksha, everything just complete. No one is there. No one. But Swamiji, this is a Kali Yuga. This won't be there. No, in any period of time. Even so, Arjuna also, definitely we can consider him as a adhikari. But you will see, if you see the life of Arjuna, you will definitely find these qualifications are plus and minus. Plus and minus. And so, this with all these qualifications, in a good measure, should be, they are required for the person who wants to know the Atma is very rare. Drashta is very rare. Here, drashta means knower. Why Swamiji you use drashta? Because Bhagavan says pashyati. Therefore, one of the part of this seeing Atma is drashta. I am taking that way. So, seer is equal to knower. You should understand that very well. So, Ascharyavat drashta. Well, now I am not going to, because we have already discussed in Tattvabodha all these sadhana chatushtaya sampatti. But Vedanta looks upon this drashta, the knower, or let's say the qualified person who wants a self-knowledge, or definitely from the other angle also. We say these three things are required. We forget about now sadhana chatushtaya. What three things are required? If you want to know the self, you have to remove these three kinds of impurities. What? First is malam. Second is a vikshepa. And third is avarana. This mala and vikshepa we have to see first. Avaranam is just an ignorance. Vidyaranya Swami makes a difference between even ajnanam and avaranam also, but we don't bother about it. Avaranam means I don't know Brahman. Even ajnanam means what? Vidyaranya Swami he's very novel. He says even you don't know that there is Brahman. Could you follow what I am saying? You don't know that there is something called Brahman. That's ajnana. But then you come across that there is something called Brahman, which is the self. You say, I don't know that I am Brahman. Well, that is avaranam. Could you follow what I am saying? So this is how they make a difference, and acharyas also, this avaranam and ajnanam makes a difference. Anyway, ultimately it is ignorance for us. So these three things are there: mala, vikshepa and avaranam. And for that, definitely, for mala and vikshepa, definitely Vedas also and other Shastra also provide a solution to remove this kind of impurities, and you can make yourself fit, qualified. As a knower of the self, you can make yourself fit. How to remove this malam? That's a grossest impurity. Grossest. And grossest means you can definitely, it's a palpable. You can definitely see in your mind those impurities. They are palpable. Raga dveshas, basically. Raga dvesha, which is nothing but our personality. And therefore it is very well experienced. Our own raga dveshas are directly experienced by us. Nitya nimittaiki eva kurvanaha duritakshayam. Smriti says, Nitya Naimittikaihi. We are providing the solution. Manusmriti says, Nitya Nimittaikaihi. Nitya karma means this daily duties, and then Naimittik karma, the obligatory duties. Well, they definitely help you for removing this durita. Durita means nothing but this raga dveshas, which is a big impurity, which is the big obstacle in knowing the self. So the knower possesses this. It is not outside. Otherwise, we can just throw it out. We can keep ourselves away from it, but you cannot. Kameshaha, Krodeshaha, Rajoguna Samudbhavaha, Mahashano, Mahapapma, Vidhi Enam Iha Vairina. To the extent that we don't know that they are our enemies. What we want in our life is myself, but they don't allow me. And therefore these ragadveshas are, Bhagavan call it as a kama and krodha, because this just, they are on the, in a single coin they are the two sides. That's how Bhagavan uses a singular. Kamaha eshaha, krodha esha. Bhagavan should have used the dual, but he did not use, because in his eye, well, kama and krodha are not big difference. The obstructed kama itself is a krodha. Anyway, so for the first impurity which the knower possesses, the one who wants to know, and he wants to be qualified, and that is the obstruction again, is this. And so you can see, now when I say this is a solution, who is doing this nitya karmas, like Sandhya Vandanam? Who is doing? Nobody is doing. Naimittik karmas also we are now avoiding. And well, Swamiji, forget about this Nitya Naimittik karmas. I am tired of listening to this. Honestly, Swamiji, you forget about it. If you have something else, you tell. Yeah, the something else is Panch Mahayagnas are there. But Veda talks about that? Yeah, Veda. This is Panch Mahayagnas has been described in the Veda. I think it is in Taittiriya Aranyaka. I can give you the Shruti also. Well, it is there. And these Panch Mahayagnas are simple. But the Yajna we don't want to do. Forget about the Yajnas. We don't want to invite fire in our home. No. This is not that kind of a fire. Don't worry about it. So, basically first is Dev Pujanam. Dev Yajna is there, Bhut Yajna is there, Nru Yajna is there. Like that. Like offering something. You have to offer yourself to this creation on a daily basis. That's sufficient. That is just sufficient to counter your likes and dislikes. Generally, I want to go by my own likes and dislikes, and now this Panch Mahayagnas are likes and dislikes. Likes and dislikes? No, Panch Mahayagna is a like, is a raga of Ishvara, and therefore if you want to drop your ragadveshas, pick up somebody's ragadvesha. Yeah, mind cannot remain without likes and dislikes. So you pick up Ishvara's ragadvesha. You pick up. But does he also hate something? Yeah, he hates something. And he likes something? Yeah, he likes something. Well, where it has been told, whole Dharma Shastra, and whole Dharma Shastra can be reduced to Panch Mahayagna. That's how people, whenever this comes, Sandhya Vandanam and all, they say this is all obsolete, Swamiji. We don't want also. And our children are also not doing, even though we have given them Yajnopavitam and all, nobody does. But this is based on common sense. Panch Mahayagna is a common sense, because your life runs, because the universe runs. So your life is running. So you are obliged to do. You are obliged to do. You are not going to get anything through the Panch Mahayagnas. If you are going to get something, you are encouraging your likes and dislikes. Yeah, that's how. But here, first thing is told, you won't get anything. Then if I won't get anything, but something gets cut off from my head, yeah. And that is called this duritam. It will go. It will go. But will it make me free from all the papas, all duritas? No, definitely no. If it is so, then we don't require Brahmagyan. So it won't do. Only which is an obstacle to your knowledge, those kind of papa will go. There's those kind of papa will go with this kind of karmas, either Panchamaha or either Nitya Naimittik karmas, and they are supposed to be done. They are called Kartavya karmas. And that is sufficient. And by doing Kartavya karmas, because Bhagavan likes it. Bhagavan likes it. Wherever he is, he sees that you are doing on a daily basis, something for the creation. Well, he is so happy inside because you are fulfilling his raga. And if you go against, he doesn't like. And therefore, so definitely pick up his raga dvesha. That is how it is. That is how the thing is. That is what even Sharanagati tells by the Ramanujacharya describes this Sharanagati in a sixfold way. And one of that is, he said, how do you know that one is surrendered to Ishvara? You can know very easily. If one picks up Raga Dvesha of Ishvara, one has surrendered to Ishvara. Even in the two people, even in two people like husband and wife, like wife keeps away her own likes and dislikes and picks up husband likes and dislikes. Well, it is called Pativratyam. So Pativrata asti. Well, so she has surrendered to the husband, looking upon him as a Parmeshwara. So Pati eva Parmeshwara. Well, that is the different thing. This is not, don't consider that way, because now the society has quite changed, and to talk about this also, person may not feel good. Anyway, but the Creator is there, and the Creator has manifested in this form. But how do you know, Swamiji, that he likes this offering in the universe? He himself is doing that. That's how. He himself is doing by his own like. He has created, he is in the form of the sun and offers himself in the creation. He is in the form of water, he offers himself. He is in the form of clouds, he offers himself. He is in the form of earth, he offers himself. And when he offers himself, then my life is sustained. So what he likes, he all the time tells me through, not by saying, but by deeds, he is telling me. So pick up those things. Yeah, pick up. Panch Mahayajnas. Please pick up that. Then you will see Duritas. In Brahma Sutra, I have told you that big discussion is there. And they say, this is the avarodha. If you don't know what you are supposed to do, then forget about the knowledge. May you listen 18 years, 20 years, 30 years, Bhashyam, and whatever you want to do, you do. But this will not occur to you. Big obstacle in a knower of the self. So this is first, malam. To cut asunder, Ragadveshas, one has to pick up this, which will remove this impurity. Second thing is this vikshepa. Vikshepa is generally considered as an extrovertedness. That has been told in Upanishad, Kathopanishad itself, Paranchikhani Vyatrunat Swayambhuhu Tasmat Parang Pashyati Nantaratman Kashit Dhiraha Pratyega Atmanam Aikshat Avritta Chakshuhu. Avritta Chakshuhu shows this introvertedness. Avritta Chakshuhu Amritatvam Icchan. One who is desiring Amritatvam, one who is desiring moksha, one who is definitely in this pursuit, well, he has to be Avritta Chakshuhu. He should not be extrovert. But it has been told here, Paranchikhani Vyatrunat Swayambhuhu Tasmat Parang Pashyati Na Antaratman. Because this Brahmaji, when he created all the living beings, including the human beings, then he has done a big violence. What violence he has done? Well, he said he has made the people extrovert. Their senses extrovert. And thereby they are not seeing themselves. And that is the big problem. They are searching themselves, then they should look inward. They should look, they should become introvert. Then definitely they will find that this I is nothing but the Satchidananda which I am searching in and through all the activities. So instead he has made their senses outward. So they could not see inward. And by that this Brahmaji has done a big violence. He does an injustice to this human being. Why? Why he should do? He must have some enmity with the human beings. It seems that he must have some enmity. And therefore we will have to see this. It is not so. It is not so. Because Brahmaji, the creator, is one part of this universe. He is a one partner. The other partner also puts his input. He also invests. And that other partner is Jiva. And Jiva is basically, through the jivas, karmas and vasanas, samashti karma and vasanas. From there, Ishvara, the creator, creates. We have talked also at one point. So, definitely Ishvara does not create anything out of just his fancies. He creates from the needs of all the jivas which are going to manifest in the creation, and definitely he takes all the karmas into account of all the jivas and the vasanas also. And in previous cycle of creation, all the jivas were extrovert, and therefore he has to make them extrovert. What can he do? What can he do? And therefore he, they give an example of a wheat. See, the wheat, whatever the kind of wheat you put in the grinder, that kind of a flour, wheat flour you get, right? So if the wheat is spoiled or rotten something, then if you put in a grinder, you get the flour, wheat flour is what kind of flour? Well, it's all rotten, spoiled only. So that is why Brahmaji cannot help. Why in the creation, why all the living beings are made extrovert? Because they were extrovert in the previous cycle. And they wanted objects. They just wanted objects. If they were made introvert, that's a violence then. Because they have that as vasanas, they have the impressions that the security and happiness that is there in all the objects. What can Brahmaji do? So he has to make them extrovert. So he has no enmity with the jivas. Jivas wanted that way. They are searching in the previous cycle also, they are searching happiness and security in the creation, in the outer world. And therefore their senses have to be made in this life also extrovert. There is one reason. Second reason also. Senses are extrovert, it is blessing. What are you saying, Swamiji? What, you have got an independence of speaking whatever you like to speak? Yes, it is blessing. I'm telling you. If all the senses are made introvert, person could not live. Because your whole life is dependent upon dependent upon the external world, which you pick up through the senses. Definitely you pick up through the senses, and definitely your senses has to be made extrovert. Then why Kathopanishad has to criticize? Kathopanishad says very clearly, avrutta chakshuhu amrutattam icchan kaschid dhira. One who is introvert is basically he alone can gain moksha, etc. Then that way one who is extrovert has been criticized there. Yeah, he has been criticized. So for your running a life, for sustaining a life, you have to pick up the objects which are outside. Everything which is outside, you have to contact and bring inside. That's what it is, food or water or anything. And therefore, depending upon definitely a living being, definitely is different living beings require different things, but basically it comes from the creation. Therefore, senses has to be extrovert. But then, even after sustaining life, one looks upon the objects of the creation as a source of happiness, as a source of security. Well, that is what is criticized. That is what is criticized, and therefore this mantra also criticized in that sense only. Paranchikhani Vetruna Swayambhu, etc., etc. Kashchid dhiraha pratyagatmanam ikshate avrutta chakshuhu amrutattam icchan. Anyway, so basically this is the calling. Vikshepa, the extrovertedness is definitely there, and we'll see. I have given you few steps if you remember in Tattvabodha, but again I am going to analyze this. Why this extrovertedness? How to get rid of the extrovertedness of the senses? And before that, we'll discuss few more things. What in this life? Suppose even though I am a sadhaka, and this complaint is there in me that Swamiji, whatever I do, my senses all the time seek enjoyments, seek different objects for enjoyment in the worldly life. Well, then you should understand that in a previous life I was having this kind of an impression. From the previous life, I have brought the impressions of this extrovertedness, and therefore, even though in this life I don't want, because I am a seeker now, because of some punyas I have come across a teacher or this shastra, etc. But that those impressions of the previous life, in which in the last life, whatever the life I was having, I used to have an enjoyment from the external world, and that has created an impression out of the experiences that the security or happiness is out there in the world. And with that impressions, as a software, you have brought it here in this world also, I mean in this life also, then definitely it will be there. So now you don't want, because you have come in contact with the Shastra, and that is what has been told by Arjuna also. Anichannapi varshneya balat iva niyojita. Anichan, I don't want, but still my mind goes to the objects. Well, this Arjuna's complaint is a complaint of all the people. Anichannapi varshneya balat. Balat means by force. Niyojita. It just goes out and contacts the different objects. Anyway, so now we will take the position. Swamiji, this is unfair. In this spiritual, in Shastras, one person said, in Shastras, one thing I don't like, Swamiji. What? They say that the senses has to be introvert. And that I don't like. Because basically they are made extrovert. That is their nature. One should not go against the nature. That is why, Swamiji, psychologically, a lot of human beings, they become distorted, because they try to control their senses, which they want. The senses wanted to go out, and you advise them. Your Shastra also advise them, and to make them introvert. And one should not go against the nature. If they are flowing out, all the senses are flowing out in their respective objects, we should encourage them. We should encourage. And therefore this is not fair. So therefore I don't like your Shastra, etc. We say, suppose a person is very angry. His nature is almost his second nature. We are not talking that this nature is a Prakriti, which Bhagavad calls in 3rd chapter, Prakriti. That kind of a thing. Don't think Satchidananda. No. So that is not at all talked here. Therefore, otherwise you will say this Swami is talking about changing the nature. And that is not possible. I am Satchidananda means Satchidananda. How can I change myself? I am not talking about that. I am talking about the second nature, our old habits and etc. Let's say the person is very angry. If he is too angry, and he has a habit of victimization. He all the time makes the people victim of his anger. Now that is his nature. Sir, what do you think? Should we allow him? Since it is his nature and we should not try to control it, do you think we have to allow him to make the people victim of his anger? Suppose another person is there who is very greedy. He is so greedy that he feels that whatever the wealth anybody has, it should become his wealth. And for that he wants to employ varieties of the cheatings and methods and everything. Should we allow him because that is his nature? He is greedy. He is so greedy, that is his second nature. Should we allow him? What do you think? Third example. If a person is a lewd, lustful, and he wants to victimize anybody in the world for his lust. What do you think? What do you think? This is a very big argument people are doing. They say even the modern psychology also sometimes helps, that these senses should not have any kind of a control. That because they are made extrovert, and therefore they should be allowed to go to the various, contacting various objects, etc. should be allowed. Otherwise the person will become, his psychology gets perverted, etc. But we cannot allow him like that. Adhyatma Shastra is for, this is basically Swachandata we call. And therefore we cannot allow this kind of a thing. But then how, okay. Then the person asks, suppose it is his second nature, that is his Prakriti. Now he cannot change it. He says, I say, a old habit can be changed by a new habit. That's all. That's the only way. Only way. Habit is replaced with other habit. And that new habit becomes your nature. And because to be an angry, it's his habit. To be lustful is just his habit. And to be greedy is his habit. He wants to grab everybody's wealth. It could be changed with the help of the scriptures, etc. And after changing that, a new prakriti is arisen. That becomes your new nature. Second nature, but of course that becomes your new nature. And therefore, this is not fair to talk about that we cannot change. So extrovertedness should go. Okay. Now come back to the topic, Swamiji. Yeah, I am coming back to the topic. See, Kashit enam atmanam pashyati. So the knower is rare. If you come across any qualified person for this knowledge, well, take his photo and keep in your puja room. It's rare. He's a wonder. Because to remove all this mala and vikshepa and all this. Vikshepa means that I told you extrovertedness, etc. is very, very difficult. Correct. That's true. Now give some points, Swamiji, so that we can cultivate this. We can become a qualified person. We can become that wonder, the knower of the self. Where I have given you a few points, if you remember. Now, to come out of this extrovertedness, you will have to explain your mind a certain facts, which will create a dispassion in your mind, and then you can definitely, your senses, which runs away towards the objects, will have an automatic break. And it is going to take time. Definitely. It's not that once you will explain these points to your mind, then next day definitely they become like wise person, they become so quiet and they remain with you all the time. Well, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. It's an old habit. Old habit. Old means old. Because the ignorance is anadi, and because of the ignorance, then definitely I don't know myself, and what is non-self is taken as a self, and non-self is basically a limited thing, and therefore centered on the self you feel limitation, and that you cannot accept it because that's not your nature, and then you want to come out of those limitations, which that will create a desire, and that desire, well, definitely, and that to fulfill the desire, definitely, where will you look? You will look outward, because you cannot look to yourself. You know yourself, which is limited. You don't know that you are limitless. As we have discussed in Chandogya, upari upari sancharantaha akshitragnaha navindeyuhu. Very beautiful example has been given in Chandogya. The person is having a tremendous wealth, and he daily goes for cultivating crops, etc., and giving waters to the crops and everything. There itself, so much of wealth is lying in the earth, but he doesn't know. So same way, this person is having a lot of wealth. I mean, he himself is a source of security and source of joy and happiness, etc. He is a source of silence or the peace. We have seen that. Well, but definitely, since he doesn't know, he definitely will look outward. So ignorance is the cause. Ignorance is beginningless. And therefore extrovertedness also is beginningless. And therefore it is the habit which is well rooted. Well rooted. So tomorrow you will explain your mind. And of course, because mind is there behind the senses. And therefore if mind doesn't go, the senses themselves cannot go. So you will have to explain to your mind, basically. Because mind is a charioteer, right? We have seen that. And therefore, mind is that what we call lagam, whatever it is. So basically, behind this, this ashwas, behind these horses, the mind is there. And so you have to educate the mind, and you have to educate the mind. You have to educate the mind. You have to educate the mind. That's called abhyasa. If you remember, when Arjuna told this, that, Anichannapi Varshneya Baladiva Niyojitaha, when Arjuna complained that my mind, runs out, Anichan, even though I don't desire, but it just runs out towards the objects. Bhagavan said, Vairagya and Abhyasa is the only solution. So once you, for a Vairagya, you give some points to your mind, it is not going to understand in one stroke. Abhyasa. So all the time, without losing any kind of patience. That's how Bhagavan says, even Kathopanishad also says, Kashit Dhiraha. Dhiraha means one who has a great patience. So, with the help of these two things, Vairagya and Abhyasa, you can definitely make your mind free from the extrovertedness. That's a second obstacle called Vikshepa. Malam, for that we have seen what is to be done. Vikshepa is also is there, and that is extrovertedness has to go. And for that, now I will give you some points which can help you to create this Vairagya. We have seen that, but perhaps you might have forgotten. Well, for me right now, in my mind is the world is a source of happiness, and that is my understanding, and therefore with the help of my senses, the mind itself moves around in the world and contacts various objects for happiness and for security. But let's not go to security. Mainly, the main Purushartha is basically this happiness. Anyway, so let's analyze in these points. Let's analyze that whether the world is a source of happiness or not. This is what you have to tell to your mind on a daily basis. That's the first point. Then, what is world? World consists of three things: time, space or place, and objects. Then look each one of them, is it a source of happiness or not? Then the first thing is, well, a particular, let's take a place. A particular place is a source of happiness, then everyone would feel definitely happy by going to that place. Well, but like going to a beach, going to Bahamas, let's say, going to Hawaii, etc. Well, that's a source of happiness. Well, we cannot say that, because going to the beach one can become sad also. And you yourself, after a week or 10 days or 15 days, let's say maximum, you won't get happiness on the same beach. You feel bored. You want to come to your home, but no flights are available because pandemic, and therefore no flights come to United States. And therefore, what I'm saying is, no place is called happiness. On the same beach, there are people who feel sorrowful because of some incidents they remember, which occurred in the past, when they came here. Well, that I need not narrate. Everyone can think of because of their imagination. Due to their imagination, they can think. So, no place is called a happiness. Time. No particular time is a source of happiness. 4:45 in the evening every day, and the whole world claps. Yeah, no. It's because we are all happy. All 600 million or whatever number, 700, whatever are there, everyone will clap, because that's a time of happiness. Even though for few Americans, I think Pujya Swamiji once upon a time was describing the Saturday, Sunday is a source of happiness, etc., going out, etc. But well, that's not. No time is a source of happiness. Then no object is a source of happiness. That's very, very important to understand. Because otherwise, no object is called a source of happiness, because everyone otherwise would be happy contacting the object. Therefore, if object is a source of happiness, definitely the object must be then anyone who comes to the source, to this object, would feel happy. Like one would definitely get sweetness when they contact the source of sweetness called sugar, right? And therefore, basically same way, any object in the creation, you cannot call it as a happiness. Because the same object can become a source of disgust, unhappiness, also for the person. Or if it doesn't become a source of disgust, he or she becomes neutral to the object. No interest. You throw it also. Or it may be lying somewhere on the corner of your home, and including guitar and pianos and whatnot. Once upon a time, when they were looking upon as a source of happiness, now it's a piece of monument. I mean, it's lying there. Nobody bothers. So therefore, if it is a source of happiness, it should give you on a daily basis happiness. It cannot. Therefore, no object is also called a happiness as such. Well, then, world is not a source of happiness, but Swamiji, still, do you remember your experience? Yeah, I said I remember. What's the experience when you get a joy? Yeah, in a dining hall, when my mind and senses contact the object of eating, then it definitely happiness as a fountain arises out of me. And therefore, world is not a source of happiness. When mind contacts the object, world, then it becomes a source of happiness. Perhaps mind is a source of happiness. Object is, or the world is not a source of happiness, but the mind is a source of happiness. Sir, mind is a big source of unhappiness. Don't talk. Therefore, don't talk. And if mind also is a source of unhappiness, and world also can be a source of unhappiness, when the contact between the two will be a major source of unhappiness. So don't talk about it. Don't talk about it. And then, well, my experience tells that when mind comes in contact with the object of the world, well, even though it looks happiness is generated, but then it's not correct, because mind is also a source of unhappiness. Anyway, so then what is left? What is left? Outer world is not a source of happiness. Inner world, like mind, is not a source of happiness. I am not talking about inner world. Huh? I have told you at that time. If you remember, anything is not worthy to even see. You will not have a happiness. You will have a disgust. Bhagavan has given a beautiful, a gift packing. The skin is really an extraordinary thing, and beautiful packing is there. Under that, once skin gets opened by even some wound or something, it is disgusting to see inside. Full of filth and smell. I don't want to discuss. I mean, not inside is a source of happiness. Well, Puja Swami used to tell, kidney is not a source of happiness. Kidney is a source of unhappiness through developing stones. And heart is a source of unhappiness through developing some kind of a blocks. I mean, anything. And that's how only I said mind, because generally mind is considered, but mind is also not a source of happiness. And so anyway, outer world, inner world, either of that is no source of happiness, and therefore there is no source of happiness. Don't say that. I will look foolish. If I tell you like that, I will look foolish. Why? Because I am experiencing happiness. I am experiencing happiness, and if I experience happiness, there must be some source. There must be some source. What is the source? Not outer world, not inner world. What is left out? Left out is I. I is left out, right? I must be the source of happiness. Yeah, but I must be the source of happiness? No, that need not be. Because I is a source of sadness. I am an eternally sad guy. And therefore, and in between I get happiness. That's how person feels. So I'm eternally sad. Most of the time I feel discomfort, lack within me, and I have general feeling that all is not well with me. And so am I not the source of unhappiness, sadness? Well, of these two, what is not true? Am I a source of happiness? Is not true. Am I a source of unhappiness? Is not true. What is not true? Well, out of these possibilities, we have to see I am a source of happiness is a better possibility. In as much as because of a wrong thinking, definitely unhappiness arises. Well, if I correct it, the sadness goes. even if you won't correct it. Swami, because you are just telling this which is impossible thing, and by there you want to prove your point that I am a source of happiness. That's a right perception. No, 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 no. You need not correct yourself. You just need not correct yourself. Even though I have given you this proposition that I am a source of happiness is a better possibility, because due to wrong thinking sadness can arise. Well, if I correct it, sadness goes. But suppose if I don't correct it, then prove I am a source of happiness. Well, even in a moment of joy, what is there? Please tell me. What is there? Swamiji, in moment of joy, the object is there. Don't say that. In a moment of joy, there is no object. There is no object. You don't know. Better you analyze again. In a moment of joy, if there is an object, then deep sleep state would be the most terrible state, because there is no object. Of course, we have already proved that outer world cannot be a source of happiness, but still, if the object is a source of happiness, then definitely the worst state of experience for a human being must be deep sleep state. Why worst? Why worst? Because for hours together, you will not have anything. You won't have samosa, you won't have this. Hours together, you won't have necklace, nothing. You won't have good perfumes, nothing. And therefore, and not only deep sleep state, now analyze your waking state in which there is a joy. Just analyze. In a moment of joy, definitely, other than you and ignorance about you, nothing else is there. The knower and known, well, both are resolved into this consciousness, and that is why, no, Swamiji, but how they resolve into one? Because your experience proves it. Even suppose you are a knower as a knower in a moment of joy, let's say that, or your experiencer in a moment of joy is still there, and the object of experience also is there, separate from you, then the experiencer will not have a sense of a completeness. And if you don't have a sense of completeness centered on the self, I don't think you will feel happy. If you feel still that your limitations pertaining to the self, just being an experiencer as such, different from the object of experience, then definitely, well, you feel yourself a limited being, you will feel lack within, you will have a discomfort, uneasiness within. Where is a joy? Where is joy? That's your, other moments which you are talking about as sadness. That is what the sadness is. You feel all the time limited being, you all the time feel lack within, that is what the discomfort is. And therefore, in a moment of joy, definitely that division must have resolved. Experiencer, experienced, division must have resolved. And that's experience. And all our burden of past memory, the experiencer has everything of the past. Lot of history is there. His past memory, future worries, everything disappears, even for a moment, let's say. Everything disappears, very individual is resolved. That's what I want to convey. In that moment of joy, well, that individual who has a lot of worries about the future, who has a lot of, burden of a past, that individual has resolved. If worry is there of the future and burden of the past is still going on, which brings generally a sorrow in me whenever I become aware of, well, there is no moment of joy. But the way you laugh itself proves that you have forgotten everything. The very individual has resolved. Individuality has resolved in the source, very source that is consciousness. It has resolved. Well, but you don't know. That's a problem. You don't know that you are the very source of that joy. So ignorance is definitely there. But basically, you become free from your opinions regarding yourself, opinions regarding everybody else, opinions about the world, opinions about the President of the United States, everything which can generally causes a sorrow. So opinions and fears and anxieties and everything. Person is all the time, an individual is nothing but a bunch of anxiety, bunch of fears all the time. If you look into his eyes, look at his facial expressions, you will find that all it is nothing but, crystallized anxieties and fears and whatnot. Just personality is full of that, full of that. And lot of past he all the time carries, lot of worries of the future he carries. That's how the individual in a waking state becomes so much, but he feels so much burden, and so he wants to get rid of that burden, and therefore he just goes to sleep. And when he goes to sleep, well, the individuality resolves. Where it resolves, from where it arises, that's where it resolves. And therefore, I must be the source of happiness looks a better possibility. I am a source of unhappiness and I am eternally sad, and the happiness comes in between. That doesn't look right. That doesn't look like a good proposition. I am a source of happiness, but because of ignorance of my own nature, well, I take myself a limited being, and I take myself as an uneasy being, and therefore happiness is not lying in the world. This way you have to, through our experience of happiness, etc., alone my nature is revealed, and of course, then the stamp is given by Shastra also. Yes, you are the source of Ananda. And that's where actually you cannot arrive just by logically. I'm telling you, very frankly, you cannot arrive at through logically that you are source of Ananda. It's nobody in the world will accept you. Don't talk about it. But person who takes the Shastra Vakya as a Pramana Vakya and then applies a logic to see the validity of the Shastra Vakya, for such a person, definitely this will be a fact of the life. And so, if you explain to your mind on a daily basis, that's called abhyasa, definitely vairagya will arise towards the objects of the world. A healthy attitude. Vairagya means not you become a sad person like this. Anything which I offer you samosa and you will sit like this. Because, and then I ask you, said I have vairagya for it. No. Vairagya is one who enjoys the world also. But he enjoys the world with a lot of background, and in background this knowledge is there. He is not entangled. Basically, this is the difference. A jnani, the person who is informed with this kind of things and who has cultivated his mind, who has educated his mind with this kind of a knowledge, definitely he is one who can enjoy the world better than any other person, because he doesn't he cannot be entangled by the objects of the world. He cannot become dependent, because he knows that they are not the source of happiness. If they consider them as a source of happiness, dependence would arise, definitely would arise. And if there is no dependence, well, there is a joy, and therefore he enjoys. He himself could see that how a object becomes a nimitta, well, to bring his own happiness out, manifest. And that is how the conscious being is the source of happiness. There is no happiness outside. If you on a daily basis, if you teach that way, well, you will be free from the second obstacle called vikshepa, the extrovertedness. And therefore, but to have this, Swamiji, this is very, very difficult. That's what they say. Ascharyavat drashta. The knower of this self, who is required to be qualified for all these things, definitely, feels, he fails in these requirements. He is always, short of all these qualifications. And therefore, Bhagavan says, pashyati. Pashyati includes all this, drashta, drishyam, and the very seeing, darshanam. Knower, knowing, and the object of knowledge, that is Atma. Well, everyone is Ascharya. I have talked about one aspect only, Ascharyavat drashta. The drashta, the knower of this, and the knowledge, self-knowledge, is very rare to find. Okay? And the third thing is avaranam. Avaranam is ignorance. Well, that is being taken care of with the help of Shastra, Shravanam, etc. So, these three things are gone, then one really knows the self. But to have all the three things is very, very rare. We'll see further tomorrow. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.